Let me ask you something important. If you're diabetic or even pre-diabetic, are you still afraid of healthy fats? Because if you are, that fear might be holding your blood sugar back from improving. Today, I want to talk to you about the number one nut butter doctors often recommend for diabetics, and why it can actually help stabilize blood sugar instead of spiking it. And that nut butter is almond butter. If you're living with diabetes, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is believing that all fats are bad and that every spread is going to send your blood sugar through the roof. That fear has been passed down for decades, and unfortunately, it has kept many people stuck with unstable glucose levels. The truth is, not all fats are created equal, and when you choose the right one, it can actually work for your blood sugar instead of against it. This is exactly why almond butter stands out as the number one nut butter for diabetics. Almond butter has something very important going for it that most foods don't. It has a very low glycemic impact. That means when you eat it, your blood sugar doesn't spike rapidly instead of causing a sharp rise followed by a crash. Almond butter digests slowly and steadily. This slow digestion helps keep glucose levels more balanced over time, which is critical for anyone trying to manage diabetes or pre-diabetes. One of the main reasons almond butter is so blood sugar friendly is its fat profile. It's rich in monounsaturated fats, the same heart-healthy fats found in olive oil. These fats slow down how quickly food leaves the stomach and enters the bloodstream. When digestion slows, sugar absorption slows, and that alone can make a noticeable difference in post-meal glucose readings. For diabetics, fewer spikes mean less stress on insulin and less damage to blood vessels over the long term. Another key factor is that almond butter contains very little carbohydrate compared to most spreads. Many people unknowingly replace butter or margarine with sugary spreads, flavored nut butters, or even honey-based products, thinking they're making a healthier choice. In reality, those options can cause blood sugar to rise quickly. Pure almond butter, on the other hand, contains minimal carbs and no added sugars when you choose the right product. This makes it a far safer option for daily use. Let's also talk about how almond butter affects insulin. Research and clinical experience show that diets higher in healthy fats, especially from nuts, are associated with better insulin sensitivity. When your cells respond better to insulin, glucose can move out of the bloodstream more efficiently. Almond butter doesn't force your pancreas to work overtime. Instead, it helps create a metabolic environment where insulin can do its job more effectively. There's also the issue of blood sugar stability between meals. One of the biggest challenges diabetics face is sudden drops or spikes that lead to fatigue, dizziness, irritability, and intense cravings. Almond butter helps here because it provides sustained energy. The combination of fat, fiber, and plant protein keeps you full longer and reduces the urge to snack on refined carbohydrates or sweets. This alone can prevent multiple glucose swings throughout the day. Now, here's something many people don't realize. Almond butter can actually reduce blood sugar spikes when eaten with carbohydrates. When you pair carbs with fat and protein, the body absorbs glucose more slowly. For example, having a small amount of almond butter with whole grain toast or a piece of fruit can be far better than eating those foods alone. This strategy doesn't eliminate carbs. It makes them safer. Almond butter is also naturally rich in nutrients that support metabolic health, or one of the most important is magnesium. a mineral involved in hundreds of enzymatic reactions in the body, including those related to glucose metabolism. Many diabetics are deficient in magnesium, and low levels are associated with increased insulin resistance. While almond butter isn't a supplement, regular intake can contribute to better overall mineral balance. Of course, quality matters. Not all almond butters are created equal. Many store-bought versions contain added sugars, syrups, palm oil, or artificial flavorings. These additives can completely cancel out the benefits. The best choice is almond butter, made from one ingredient only. Almonds, nothing else, no sweetness is needed. The natural flavor is enough, and your blood sugar will thank you for it. Portion size is another critical piece. Almond butter is powerful, but more is not better. 1 to 2 tablespoons is all you need. That amount provides enough healthy fat to stabilize blood sugar without adding excessive calories. When people overdo it, they often blame the food rather than the portion used correctly. Almond butter remains one of the safest and most effective spreads for diabetics. It's important to understand that almond butter is not a magic cure. It won't reverse diabetes overnight. But what it does do is support the body's natural balance. When combined with proper meals, regular movement, adequate sleep, and stress control, it becomes a valuable daily tool. Small, consistent choices like this add up over time and lead to real metabolic improvements. So, instead of fearing nut butters, learn to choose wisely. Instead of avoiding fats, embrace the right ones. Almond butter, when used properly, doesn't raise blood sugar. It helps steady it, and for diabetics, that stability is everything. One of the most overlooked reasons blood sugar stays high in diabetics is not sugar itself, but poor insulin sensitivity. You can eat less sugar, avoid desserts, and still struggle if your cells are resistant to insulin. This is where the conversation needs to shift from just lowering sugar intake to helping insulin work the way it was designed to work. And this is exactly where almond butter quietly becomes so powerful. Insulin is the key that unlocks your cells. So glucose can move from the bloodstream into the tissues where it's used for energy. When insulin sensitivity is low, that key doesn't work well. The body responds by producing more and more insulin, and over time, this creates inflammation, fatigue, weight gain, and worsening blood sugar control. Supporting insulin sensitivity is not optional for diabetics. It's essential. Almond butter helps here because of its unique nutritional composition. First, it's rich in monosaturated fats. These fats don't just support heart health, they directly influence how cells respond to insulin. Diets higher in monosaturated fats have consistently been linked to improved insulin function. These fats help reduce inflammation at the cellular level, and inflammation is one of the biggest drivers of insulin resistance. When inflammation is reduced, insulin receptors on your cells become more responsive. That means the same amount of insulin can move more glucose out of the bloodstream. This reduces the constant demand on the pancreas and helps stabilize blood sugar throughout the day. Almond butter doesn't force insulin, it supports it. Another critical component is magnesium, a mineral many diabetics are deficient in without even knowing it. Magnesium is involved in insulin signaling pathways. Without enough magnesium, insulin simply cannot function efficiently. Almond butter is one of the better natural food sources of magnesium. And while it's not a replacement for medical treatment, Regular intake can help correct mild deficiencies over time. Low magnesium levels are associated with higher fasting blood sugar, higher insulin resistance, and increased risk of complications. By consistently including magnesium-rich foods like almond butter, you give your body the raw materials it needs to improve metabolic communication at the cellular level. This is not a quick fix, it's foundational support. Almond butter also contains plant-based protein, which plays a role in insulin regulation. Protein slows digestion and reduces the speed at which glucose enters the bloodstream. When glucose enters slowly, insulin doesn't need to spike aggressively. This reduces insulin stress and supports long-term sensitivity. Over time, fewer insulin spikes mean less resistance. Let's also talk about fat storage and insulin. When insulin is constantly elevated, the body is pushed into fat storage mode. This is why many diabetics struggle with stubborn weight gain, especially around the abdomen. Healthy fats, like those in almond butter, help regulate insulin levels, which can make fat loss more achievable when combined with proper nutrition and movement. There's also the issue of hormonal balance. Insulin doesn't work alone. It interacts with cortisol, leptin, and other hormones that regulate hunger and energy. Chronic blood sugar swings disrupt this balance. Almond butter helps smooth those swings, which indirectly supports better hormonal communication. When hormones communicate properly, insulin sensitivity improves. Another important point is how almond butter affects post-meal response. Highly refined foods cause rapid glucose rises, forcing insulin to surge. Almond butter slows gastric emptying, meaning food stays in the stomach longer. This slows glucose absorption and results in a more controlled insulin release. Controlled insulin release preserves sensitivity. This is why adding almond butter to meals can be more effective than avoiding fats entirely. Many people eat carbohydrates alone, which is one of the fastest ways to increase insulin resistance. Pairing carbohydrates with healthy fats and protein like almond butter creates a more balanced metabolic response. It's also worth mentioning that almond butter contains antioxidants and vitamin E, which protects cells from oxidative stress. Oxidative stress damages insulin receptors and worsens resistance by reducing oxidative damage. Almond butter indirectly protects insulin function over time. Healthy cells respond better to insulin, simple as that. But again, quality and consistency matter. Almond butter must be natural, unsweetened, and free from processed oils. Added sugars and refined oils increase inflammation and cancel out insulin benefits. 1 to 2 tablespoons daily is enough to support insulin sensitivity without overloading calories. Now, let me be very clear. Almond butter alone will not fix insulin resistance, but insulin resistance is never caused by one thing, and it's never fixed by one thing either. It improves when multiple supportive habits come together: better food choices, movement, sleep, stress reduction, and consistency. Almond butter fits into that framework as a supportive metabolic tool. When people stop fearing healthy fats and start using them strategically, insulin sensitivity improves, blood sugar becomes easier to manage, energy stabilizes, cravings decrease, and compliance improves because the diet becomes sustainable. Supporting insulin sensitivity is about giving your body what it needs, not depriving it. Almond butter does exactly that. It nourishes the system that regulates blood sugar instead of fighting against it. And when insulin works better, everything else starts to fall into place. One of the biggest daily struggles for people with diabetes isn't just high blood sugar. It's constant hunger and cravings, especially for sweets and refined carbohydrates. This isn't a lack of willpower. It's physiology. When blood sugar rises and falls rapidly, the brain signals hunger, even when the body doesn't truly need fuel. This cycle keeps people trapped, frustrated, and discouraged. Breaking that cycle is essential, and this is where almond butter plays a surprisingly powerful role. Almond butter helps promote fullness because it delivers what the body actually recognizes as nourishment. Unlike refined foods that digest quickly and leave you hungry an hour later, almond butter digests slowly. The slow digestion sends a steady signal of satiety to the brain, telling it, "You're fed, you're safe, you don't need more right now." That signal alone can change eating behavior dramatically. The reason this happens comes down to nutrient balance. Almond butter contains healthy fats, plant-based protein, and fiber, all three of which slow digestion and stabilize blood sugar. When digestion slows, glucose enters the bloodstream gradually. When glucose enters gradually, insulin stays stable. And when insulin stays stable, cravings lose their power. Cravings are often driven by insulin swings. When insulin rises quickly, blood sugar drops just as fast. That drop triggers hunger hormones like grain and increases cravings for quick energy, usually sugar or refined carbs. Almond butter helps prevent this roller coaster by smoothing out those spikes and crashes. Fewer crashes mean fewer cravings. Another important factor is leptin, the hormone responsible for signaling fullness. Chronic blood sugar instability can disrupt leptin signaling, making people feel hungry even after eating. Healthy fats, like those found in almond butter, help restore proper leptin communication. When leptin works correctly, you feel satisfied sooner and stay satisfied longer. Protein also plays a critical role here. Almond butter contains plant-based protein that helps suppress appetite by influencing hunger hormones. Protein increases the release of peptides that signal fullness to the brain. Even modest amounts can significantly reduce the urge to snack between meals. This is especially important for diabetics who struggle with late-night cravings or frequent grazing. Let's also talk about taste and satisfaction, because this matters more than people admit. Almond butter has a rich, creamy texture and natural flavor that satisfies the palate. When food is satisfying, the brain stops searching for more. Many people eat too much simply because their food lacks satisfaction. Almond butter provides both nourishment and enjoyment, reducing the psychological drive to overeat. There's also a neurological component. Healthy fats support brain health and neurotransmitter balance. When the brain receives adequate fat, cravings driven by stress, fatigue, or emotional triggers often decrease. This is why overly low fat diets often fail. People feel deprived, stressed, and eventually binge. Almond butter helps prevent that deprivation. Another benefit is energy stability. When energy levels crash, the body seeks quick fuel. Almond butter provides slow-burning energy, helping maintain mental clarity and physical stamina. When energy is steady, people make better food choices. Cravings are far less intense when the body isn't desperate for fuel. Almond butter is particularly helpful in the morning or midday. Adding a tablespoon to breakfast or a snack can dramatically reduce hunger later in the day. Many people notice they naturally eat less at their next meal, not because they're restricting, but because they're genuinely full. That's a powerful shift. It's also important to understand that cravings are not always about hunger. They're often about blood sugar imbalance. Almond butter addresses the root cause rather than masking the symptom. Instead of fighting cravings with discipline alone, you stabilize the system that creates them in the first place. Now, portion control still matters. 1 to 2 tablespoons is enough. More doesn't equal better. Overeating, even healthy foods, can lead to excess calories and digestive discomfort. But when used correctly, almond butter becomes a tool, not a temptation. Quality matters as well. Almond butter with added sugar, sweeteners, or refined oils can increase cravings instead of reducing them. These additives stimulate dopamine pathways and keep the brain wanting more. Pure almond butter does the opposite. It satisfies and stops the cycle. Over time, as blood sugar stabilizes and insulin sensitivity improves, cravings naturally decrease. People often report fewer urges for sweets, less snacking, and a calmer relationship with food. This isn't because they're forcing change. It's because the body is finally receiving what it needs. This is why promoting fullness isn't about eating more food. It's about eating the right food. Almond butter supports satiety at both the hormonal and neurological levels. It helps you feel full, stay full, and think clearly about food instead of obsessing over it. For diabetics, this is a major win. Reduced cravings mean better compliance, better blood sugar control, and less emotional stress around eating. When food stops feeling like the enemy, long-term success becomes possible. Fullness is not about volume. It's about nourishment. Almond butter delivers nourishment efficiently and effectively, and when the body is nourished, cravings lose their grip. One of the biggest reasons people fail to see benefits from even the healthiest foods is not because the food is ineffective, but because quality and portion control are ignored. This is especially true when it comes to almond butter. Used correctly, it can support blood sugar balance. Used incorrectly, it can work against you. Understanding this difference is essential, particularly for diabetics. Let's start with quality because this is where most mistakes are made. Walk down any grocery aisle and you'll see dozens of almond butter options, all claiming to be healthy. But when you turn the jar around and read the label, you often find added sugars, syrups, molasses, honey, palm oil, soybean oil, or artificial flavorings. These additives completely change how the product affects your blood sugar and insulin. Pure almond butter should contain one ingredient only. Almonds, that's it. No sweeteners, no oils, no preservatives. Almonds naturally contain healthy fats and a small amount of natural carbohydrate. But when manufacturers add sugar or refined oils, the glycemic impact increases and inflammation rises. For diabetics, that's the opposite of what you want. Refined vegetable oils are particularly problematic. Oils like soybean, canola, or palm oil are often added to improve texture or shelf life. These oils promote inflammation and can worsen insulin resistance over time. Even if the label says low sugar, the presence of these oils can still undermine metabolic health. This is why ingredient labels matter more than marketing claims. Now, let's talk about portion control, because even the cleanest almond butter can cause problems when overused. Almond butter is calorie-dense. This doesn't make it unhealthy, but it does mean that small amounts are powerful. 1 to 2 tablespoons is the ideal serving. That amount provides enough healthy fat, magnesium, fiber, and protein to support blood sugar stability without overwhelming the system. Many people eat straight from the jar without realizing how much they're consuming. 2 tablespoons can easily turn into 4 or 5, and suddenly blood sugar, digestion, and weight begin to suffer. The problem isn't almond butter, it's unconscious eating. Measuring your portion, especially in the beginning, creates awareness and prevents overconsumption. Overeating healthy fats can also slow digestion too much, leading to fatigue or digestive discomfort. Balance is key. Almond butter works best as a supportive addition, not the foundation of every meal. Think of it as a tool, not a centerpiece. Timing also matters. Almond butter is most effective when paired with meals or snacks, not eaten in isolation all day long. Adding it to breakfast, combining it with fiber-rich foods, or using it to balance carbohydrates creates a better metabolic response. Eating it mindlessly throughout the day can lead to excess calories without added benefit. Another important consideration is individual tolerance. Some people digest nut butters easily, while others may experience bloating if they eat too much at once. Starting with smaller portions allows the body to adapt. The goal is support, not stress. Storage and freshness matter as well. Natural almond butter separates because it contains no stabilizers. This is normal. Store it well and store it properly. Rancid fats increase oxidative stress and inflammation, which can worsen insulin resistance. Always choose fresh products and pay attention to smell and taste. Now, let's address flavored almond butters, chocolate, vanilla, honey roasted. These are not diabetic-friendly, even if they're marketed as natural. These flavors usually contain added sugars or sweeteners that spike blood sugar and stimulate cravings. Pure almond butter doesn't need flavoring. Its purpose is nourishment, not dessert. Portion control also plays a psychological role. When people feel they can eat unlimited amounts of healthy foods, they often lose structure. Structure supports consistency. Knowing your portion removes guilt, reduces anxiety, and builds trust with food. This is crucial for long-term success in diabetes management. It's also important to understand that almond butter is not meant to replace all fats in the diet. Variety matters. Rotating healthy fat sources prevents nutrient imbalance and supports overall health. Almond butter is one piece of the puzzle, not the entire picture. When quality and portion are respected, almond butter becomes predictable. Predictability leads to better blood sugar control. There are no surprises, no spikes, no crashes, just steady energy and improved metabolic balance. This is why doctors emphasize how you eat just as much as what you eat. The right food in the wrong amount or form can become a problem. The right food used correctly becomes a powerful ally. So remember this. Choose pure almond butter, measure your portion, use it intentionally.